Right, so there are two things that I use, two programs. First one is Free Commander. It's basically an alternative to the Windows File Explorer. I like using it because I can have two windows open at the same time. I mean, technically you can do that with the default File Explorer, but it's nice doing it on Free Commander because it's nice for workspace. And you could set up your favorites and everything, sort. There's a lot of nice little features. I don't use Photoshop. The actual program I use is GIMP. That one's free as well. So my graphics card is a GTX 1070. I really don't know if this affects whether you can use it or not, but I also use something called ShadowPlay. It's basically a video recording, a screen capture program. And so when I'm watching an anime, Ranma, I I turn on the screen capture and excuse me, fuck. I set it to always be recording the last 15 seconds of footage. And then whenever I see something that I think would make a good GIF, I would press the keyboard shortcut to save those last 15 seconds. So the result of that would be all these videos, all these little clips. These are all 15-second clips, and it just makes it easier with my method. So a 15-second clip would be, the file size would be way smaller than a whole 30-minute video. And just dealing with importing and exporting stuff is a lot faster when you're dealing with shorter videos. So this one right here is the first one of a recent episode I watched. And what I would do is oh fuck. So I'm also using VLC Media Player. That's also free. So go to Tools, Preferences. I set up the hotkeys, two hotkeys that I specifically set up. They are take snapshot. For me, I put that on the 1 key on my numpad, and then second one that's important is next frame. I put that on number 2, and I just set it up like that just so they're right next to each other, because I'm gonna be pressing those interchangeably or whatever the fuck really often. And then another important thing to do is so I'm in the settings and I'm going to all settings. I'm the video part, and this part right here where it says snapshot. You don't have to do it exactly like I do, how I set it up here, but for video snapshot file prefix, just put the number 0 in there, and then this one's important. Have this checked off. Use sequential numbers instead of timestamps. So a lot of this stuff is manually done. Every time you take a screenshot, the file name that results of it is gonna be, they're gonna be sequentially numbered, and that'll make things a lot simpler when you're importing all those images into GIMP, so that they're in order and they're not scattered. I'm gonna be right now. So now I'm gonna start capturing screenshotting. So what I'm doing is I'm screenshotting each frame that I want in the GIF itself. It doesn't have to be full screen. This screenshot, the VLC Media Player screenshot, is just gonna screenshot whatever's on here in the player, not your whole computer screen. This one, I liked the look of this one. I'm just scrolling through it, and you notice on older anime, the screen is going to be shaky. So sometimes, I mean, this is just personal preference for me. Sometimes I want to make sure that it's not going to shake too much, so that once it loops, so that the loop is not harsh, it's not jerky, you know. So right now we're just doing like a rough capture of everything. We can prune or delete all of the excess or the bad frames once we're done with this little session here. So what I did just there is I pressed the keyboard shortcut for next frame. It doesn't matter if the cursor's on here, it's okay. And then I pressed the snapshot shortcut, and then see at that part of the screen it said 00001, so that was the first one. And then I pressed the next frame shortcut again, and then I capture again, and then I press it again, capture, press capture, press capture. Sometimes when you press next frame, the same image will still be on the on the screen. So because of that, you should not blindly alternate between those two keys. You have to make sure it actually changes before you screenshot. Otherwise, you're just taking redundant shots. So over here, there is nothing that happened. So I'm going to press it again. There, that something happened. So I'm screenshotting that. My goal here is to just get enough to where it can loop back into itself. Because that's another personal preference with me. I don't like making GIFs that are jerky loops. I like them to be as smooth as possible. And when you're watching older anime, it's kind of hard for that, just because the source material itself is, sometimes they'll shake. That's I don't think that's a bad thing. I really like that. It shows that the hands-on creation of it, whereas the newer stuff, it just feels very artificial. But some people might like that look. See, did you see where that where the screen shook just now? It usually means that this particular shot is going to be over with. So I'll press it again. It's gonna be, fuck. Wait, maybe I was wrong. Oh well, fuck. Okay, so I'm going to Free Commander now. Oh yeah, you also have to know, just keep in mind where you're saving everything, your screenshots. Mine, I have it in a, I partitioned my hard drive, my SSD to maybe like a 50 megabyte partition specifically for screenshots, so that when I go into Free Commander, these are all my partitions slash drives. So when I go to this one, it's just very quick. This is all just for what do you call that? Fucking workability or a quality of life improvements. And so these are the screenshots that I took. Oh yeah, and then the image viewer that I use, you don't necessarily have to do it. I'm just showing you what I do, is called Faststone. Obviously when you post this online, it's going to be a lot smaller, so the shakiness is not going to be as apparent. This is where it starts. In GIMP, do File, Open as Layers, and then I'm going over here to my partition drive that's specifically for my screenshots. And the order, so see like this, see they're all numbered sequentially. It comes really in handy if you go like this and then you import it, it'll import it in that direction. But if you do it this way, so the 24th frame all the way to the first, it'll import it backwards. And that's nice. I'll just explain it right here. It's nice for if you want to make a GIF that goes forward and backward. So let's say I'll do, no, I won't use that much. 1 to 10, and then open. And then I'll do it one more time. Open as layers, but this time I'll do it in reverse. And I did 1 to 10. So if I wanted to make that go backwards, I would do 9 to 2. If you do 10 to 1, you shouldn't do that, because it's gonna, at the end of each loop, it's gonna freeze for a second, because those are duplicate frames. So I'm just taking those out. And open. I'll explain more of this in detail, but I'm just showing you really quick. So when you play this back, it's gonna go back and forth. Fuck. Well, you can't even really tell because it's the shit. There's not even much animation in there. But all right. So in this one, I'm gonna import everything. I'm gonna trim a lot of it off. I have a keyboard shortcut for a lot of these, and one of the first shortcuts that I press is you go to filters, animation, and then playback. So over here it's set for Control 4, and then it brings up this window, and then you press spacebar to play it out. So you see at the end of this thing right here, it jerks, and I want to get rid of that. It's gonna take a lot of oh, this is a right here step. It just makes it go forward by 1 frame. It's going to take a lot of flipping through. Okay, see here when it goes to the first frame, it that's where it jerks. So it might not necessarily be the first, it might be the first 6 or so, but the nature of this GIF just being very static for the most part means that I can get rid of a lot of these. So I'm on, this is the layers fucking tab or whatever. So the first frame that'll play will be number 1, and that's going to be at the bottom of this whole list. The most recent, the last frame that'll play is going to be at the top. So I found the jankiness somewhere in the beginning. So I'll highlight this, just left click on it, and then to delete it, you don't press delete, because that's going to happen. You want to actually get rid of it by cutting it. So you could do Control X. See there, it's getting rid of it right there. And then right here it says there's 15 frames. Now I'm going to play it again. Okay, so it seemed to go up and down at around this part. So I'll probably get rid of the beginning 8 frames of this. 9 out of 15. 1, 2, 3. I'm cutting these away again. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Then going at it again. And then to get a better look at how it's gonna turn out when I post it, I'm actually gonna resize it right now. You can set up your own shortcuts by going to Edit, Keyboard Shortcuts. You just search for let's see, like I have that animation one set on Control 4, I think. So I type in animation, and right there, and that's where you can set up your own shortcuts. So I'm resizing it. Mine is on, if you want to do it manually, go to Image, Scale Image. So I captured this in 720p. Right now I'm going to change it to 480p. I'm going to do this quite a few times. And I'm going to get rid of these black bars. Now each anime, especially with old school anime, are going to have different bars. They're meant to have the same aspect ratio, the 4:3 aspect ratio, but some things, like let's say some will have an extra bar in here. That's just a part of because I think what they were doing when they put it on DVD or Blu-ray was they got it from a VHS recording or something like that. I don't know, but you could see these marks on the sides like it was photocopied. So not when you're trimming off these bars, not every anime is going to have the same dimension that you're going to trim off. So first, this is the native resolution of it, 1280 by 720. I'm gonna reduce this to 956, and that should, for Ranma specifically, that the one that the clip that I have, that's what's gonna cut everything off. And you could put your mouse pointer over here and then scroll up on the wheel, and that's how you could see there's no black bars. So we trimmed everything, and we're gonna resize it again. And Tumblr's images display at a width of 500, so we do 500. Whoops. So you gotta really make sure you're you know which one you're setting up, canvas size or image size. So a lot of my GIFs, I like them to have the same dimensions, so I trim off a little bit of this. So I change from 720 to 710, and then center. See that little preview, it just cuts off a little bit. And then we're going to scale image, change from 956 to 500. And this little chain is going to, let's say you change this to 700, this height will change accordingly when this chain is closed. If you change it to 700 when this chain is open, this stays the same. Yeah, 500, I keep mine at 360, 500 by 360. That's not the original ratio. That's just my ratio that I use for everything. It's also how I can tell if someone fucking steals my shit. So scale. Alright, now I'm doing the playback again. And then this is how it's going to be looking. Sometimes I like to, this green bar, every time it resets, it gets in the way of me gauging if there's any actual jerkiness. So I like to cover it up so that I don't arbitrarily know that it's actually looping. Okay, so right there's that fucking thing on there. Let's see. That's frame 4. I might be able to 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm gonna just edit this myself. So frame 22. Open with GIMP again. There it is right there. Just gonna get something to cover it up. Okay, so that clone tool, you hold Alt and you press on any area of the image to grab that color. No, it's hold Control, and then that color is on there. So I'm just gonna cover this up, and then overwrite it. So I'm gonna restart this, but we already know how to do that. So again, open as layers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. So that image 22 is not gonna mess it up anymore. That jerkiness is, that little blemish is gonna be gone. And overall, this looks like a smooth transition. I don't see any jerkiness to this. So I'm just gonna assume you just want to post it as is. So we're going to basically make this file size smaller, because the size limit on Tumblr for photos, I believe, is 3 megabytes. So we're going to image, mode. Oh yeah, it's Control 9. I know these shortcuts, but I'm using a keyboard that actually has macro keys, so I don't actually remember that it's Control 9. I have an actual single shortcut key on my keyboard. So mode, indexed. I'm always keeping it on generate optimum palette. It can range anywhere from 0 to 256. The higher this number, the better the image will look, but the more data that it will take up. But with this one, it only has 7 frames, so guaranteed you can go as high as you can, 256, and it's gonna stay under 3 megabytes. But when you're dealing with things with GIFs that have more frames, like some of my GIFs have 40 or 50 frames, it's going to take more space. And also a GIF that has, so this GIF has 7 frames, and it's not really doing anything. Another GIF that has 7 frames but has a lot of action or a lot of lighting or anything that just really changes. So like from each frame to frame, this part of the GIF is gonna stay the same for the most part. The only thing that's really changing are these. But when you're dealing with something like a fight scene, that's going to ultimately make the GIF take up more space. So this part is where the trial and error comes in. You have to just keep, what do you call it, optimizing and seeing whether or not the end result goes over 3 megabytes. And this is another part that just takes up time. But in here, I definitely know this is going to be under 3 megabytes. So in other cases where you have more frames, there's going to be more trial and error. So we go down to dithering, and there are 2 forms that I use. I use either none or positioned. Generally, positioned looks better to me. It also depends on the anime or the source material, because there's quite a few older anime that don't look that great when you use none. There will be this pixelizing effect, this really fat pixel effect on darker parts of the screen, or large color blocks on the screen. Like see this tannish area, it'll just look assy and shit. And generally the positioned one takes more space. The none usually takes it always takes less space. Sometimes significantly, sometimes not by much, but none always takes less space in a file size. So for this one, we can just go fucking full power, press convert, and it pretty much looks the same. And so I'm gonna preview it again just to see how it looks. Oh, there's some right there. There's some shit that looks fucking weird. And I'll press my Control Z to undo that. And I'm just gonna be curious as to how it'll look with none. It might even look better. And preview it. So this is what I was talking about, that pixely look. And over here too. It might be my monitor too, I don't know. So to me, that's not gonna look as good as it did in position. But what I can do to mask that is, so I'm gonna go to this frame right here, is go to, this is the last frame, is go to filters, noise, HSV noise, and just put artificial sound on each frame. And when I look at, make sure preview is checked. And what I'm looking at is holdness and value. Yeah, you can mess around with this shit too if you want. But I do holdness and value. Generally, holdness, what I learned was that it gets softer the higher it goes, and it gets more grainy the lower the value. And then value over here is pretty self-explanatory. It accentuates the holdness, so higher will make it more intense. I just want it to look naturally a part of it. I don't want it to look overly edited. So okay. And I only did 1 frame. So I gotta do, I don't know how to batch, how to do it in a whole batch. I looked it up, but I couldn't figure out how. So now I'm doing the next frame, and usually, see, you go to filters again, you can do the same thing, but it gives you the option to do the same thing. All you have to do is just select the next frame, and then you can do repeat HSV noise, do the repeat thing that we did on here. And in this case, this is nice. It gives you a shortcut. And so I'll just press, and that shortcut was Control F. So I'll do Control F, select that, Control F, Control F. Now I'm going to play it. And then so I'm going to go back to optimizing it. And then, so with the those grainy ass images, it does better with no dithering. convert. Okay, so for me personally, that looks fine. You might have a different taste, but that's what I'll like. So after you've done that, you go to filters, animation, and then optimize for GIF. And this one is nice because it also lets you do a shortcut as well. Sometimes if there's a lot more frames, that progress that optimizing will take longer, maybe upwards of 20 seconds or something, also depending on what CPU you have. And so this new thing will pop up, and this is what the fuck was my shortcut? See, I don't remember what these are. I just remember the keyboard shortcuts. Okay, so this one we're done with editing, and now we do export as. So Control Shift E, and then you choose where you want it to go. I have a folder just for this. This is where you'll choose the file extension. You can either manually select GIF right there, or you could just type it in here and it'll actually save it as a GIF. But I already have something set up. My other GIFs here. I'm just gonna put the next one up, and then export, and this window will come up. You want to save it as animation, otherwise it's just going to be an image, just a static image. And then loop forever. And then this is where you change the speed of it. So default is 100, and these are unchecked by default. And if you're fine with just, oh fuck. Hold up. Alright, so you see this, it's playing. You can also do a little preview of how fast it'll play. How it'll look if you change the speed. You can't really tell it. Well, you can kind of tell the difference. So that's 25 frames per second. This is more apparent if you do like a fighting scene, but here that's really static for the most part. But yeah, you can just see how it'll look. Default is 10. You can just see how it'll look at faster frames. But anyway, if you like how it looks at a higher frame rate, you would just, where the fuck is that at? Okay. You would just, if you wanted to go faster, you would lower the number. Like let's say 90 or 85 or something. And so if you would do that, I don't know why, I just found that this works. You just check both of these. But if you're just keeping it default, yeah, you could just do that. That thing that I showed you just a few seconds ago with the speed, you're not going to know what, at least for me, I don't know what number over here corresponds to which frame. So that's one thing you just got to feel out yourself. So export, and then it's made. This is the only place where I could see the size. So 737 kilobytes, that's fucking nothing. The size here, let's see. So over here it'll say 3.8 megabytes, but that's obviously doesn't agree with this. So if you see something here, it's not necessarily going to be representative of what the resulting size will be. So that's another trial and error thing. You just got to find out once you actually save it. I don't know any other better way, but this works for me. So under 3 megabytes, see everything I have is under 3 megabytes. And this is where, let's say it goes over 3 megabytes. So what happens if you post something that's over 3 megabytes? It just posts as a static image. It's no longer an animation on Tumblr. When it goes over 3 megabytes, that's where you have to go back here and redo that thing, index conversion to maybe 200. Sometimes you got to go really low, but So let's see how it looks when you do 35. It loses a lot of the quality. So it's a lot of balancing of image quality and staying under the size limit. And sometimes if something just doesn't look good enough to me, but can't stay under 3 megabytes, I unfortunately just scrap it, because I don't really want to be posting shit just for the sake of posting. I want it to have a certain quality to it. And also you might want to so let's say there's an action scene. Let's say there's an action scene like this one. A lot of this one was maybe 45 frames or 50 frames, and a lot of this had a frame that followed one frame that was almost identical. And what I mean is the pointers right here. So this is one frame, and then the next frame was like this, and the next frame was like that. So that what I did was I took out the second frame so that it went like this. First frame and then first frame and then like that. That one that I took out was really similar to the previous one, to the point where if you take it out, you can't really notice that it's missing anything, or the movement doesn't seem jerky. And so you would just do that over here. You choose which one you want to get rid of. So let's say oh, frame 6, that one looks really similar to frame 5. So you just go 1 2 3 4 5 6. Yeah, I'll get rid of 6 and just cut that out. And then that's one less frame that'll give you more quality and a smaller file size. And you just gotta toy around with all those index conversion things. That's how I make the GIFs basically. A lot of more work goes into editing them, like how I showed you with the noise and the HSV thing. You just gotta do each frame. Sometimes you want to increase the intensity by each frame, you know, adjust the values one by one, and then make that an 8 the next time or something. This one, it doesn't really matter because it's just fucking old grainy effect. But when it comes to motion blur or something, you don't want to go straight from 0 to 10. You want to gradually, you know, change it every time you go to the next frame, you know. That's the core of it. Just ask me questions if there's something that's not really clear to you, or if you want to know more. That anime you're watching, yeah, hopefully you can bring it out to people, show them why you like it and shit. Hope this helps out, and have a good one.